Anji Vakorja. Hello, everybody. Eimear Burke here. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 202. And as usual, I start with a prayer for peace. Gomara Siocon ar fud na crinne. Gomara Siocon in our Jaili agus in our Jirha. Gnairi Lin Len ar Kuch Garmaka. Gamwich Buikas Jiv, Jeha Chivdaka, is Spirit Chivdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities. For peace, as the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. We might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoyed the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So let me see where you are from. Northern Italy. Hi, Carla. Kevin McLeod, the sun is shining in County Sligo. Yeah, it's been shining today as well. It was actually 19 degrees at one point. Rare for us. Berlin. Hello, Morgan, in Germany. South Wales. Calgary. Windswept foothills of Calgary. He said if he had a toupee, it'd be gone with the wind. Liz from Wyoming. Lloyd Gisborne, you're up early. That's good because it's tomorrow morning in New Zealand. And Alex, someplace from Australia. Anyway, lovely to see you all. Very, very welcome. So this evening we are going, East Sussex, lovely. Hertfordshire. We are going to the US. We're going to Princeton. So let me introduce my guest this evening is Roma Johnson. Roma, you're so welcome to this Fireside.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Princeton, because I have never been. I know there's a university there, but that's all I know.
Well, the university is Princeton in a lot of ways, because there are 6,000 students and all the faculty and all the ancillary people. So it's a giant complex right in the middle of town, and the town is built around it, of course. But okay. It's in central New Jersey, which is quite beautiful in the spring because we have lots of trees and lots of flowering trees and cherry trees. So there's pink trees and white trees and yellow flowers, and it's quite spectacular in the spring.
Oh, beautiful! And tell us about your background. I mean, obviously academic if you're in Princeton, but tell us a little bit about technical difficulties around. We're back again, so apologies for that. We're going to
have a little trouble with your sound.
Manage to stay connected. Can you hear me, Roma?
Yes, but it's intermittent.
She has frozen, so
I'm here, but you.
Apologies to everybody. Okay.
Okay. Can you
hear me now? Apologies to everybody. Yes, I can hear you. I just want to apologize for the poor connection. It's the greater powers of internet, not me. So, and not Roma. So apologies. So I'm freezing. I'm sorry about what. Yes, right. Apologies for that. There's nothing I can do about this. So, so you're obviously an academic, but what was your background like growing up?
What was my background coming here?
Yeah, growing up, what's your background?
Okay, growing up, I grew up the daughter of and granddaughter of farmers in Nebraska, actually, people who owned family farms, and I grew up, my parents had left the farms to go to town, so I grew up in town, but the farm was very much a part of life. We went there for summers, we went there for holidays, and when we got to be teenagers, we went there when we misbehaved. We were sent to the farm. And we would have to work for a couple weeks or however long we worked off our penalty. But I grew up around farmers, and people who were living in and of the land. So it has shaped my thinking quite a bit.
Oh, lovely. So so I assume it was a Christian background you came from, yeah?
Yes, yes.
So what was that like for you?
What, coming from a Christian background?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody in where I grew up, they were all Christian. They were either Methodists or Catholics, and my forebears, my grandfathers, were they were like preachers, I guess, and they came over from Scotland and Sweden to because they felt like they were religiously persecuted. So that kind of religiosity was in my family, although low key, you know. And then I grew up with that. I grew up in the Christian church. My father was a Mason, and so he had a very set way of thinking about what was right with the world. But as soon as I graduated from high school, I split. I went to California. And then from there on, I wasn't very involved with the Christian church. In fact, for many, many years, I was at war with it because I was working against the Vietnam War. I was working in AIDS. I was a feminist, and the church didn't seem to want to step up in any of those cases. So I said, okay, goodbye. And I lived in Southern California, so there's a vast smorgasbord of choices. You can go to Tibetan Buddhism on this corner, you can go become a Sufi on this corner, you can become a Hindu on this corner, you can go over here, and it just was. So I experimented with everything. I tried it all. I loved going to church, so I just went to any church that was around just to see what was happening, and that sustained me. I didn't take a, and then I became very, very interested in early Celtic Christianity, especially the tales of the saints that went sailing in the boats. The voyagers or the peregrinati. Excuse me. And I just became fascinated by them, and so I delved into that lore for years still, and read everything I could get my hands on that was written about that. And then coming in sideways almost to Druidism, because I was just interested in these kinds of Celtic Christian connections, but also the love of the land, but also the voyaging, but also this, that, and the other. And so the way I've heard about Druidism was I went to a seminar, a weekend seminar with John Matthews in Washington, in Washington State. And that was almost an accident. I had wanted to go to a seminar with R.J. Stewart, but there wasn't one close by. But I had read a lot of his books about the Arthurians and all this. So I thought, well, I'll go hear John Matthews. I had read a couple of his early books. And while I was there was a man there who was an OBOD member. And he's the one that said, you should be a Druid. You should check out OBOD. And so I talked to John about it. And then when I got home, I sent away for the packets, and the rest is history. So I stuck with it for all these years. You're frozen now, Eimear, so I'll just keep talking until you tell me to stop. So my feelings about, you're back now. Do you have another question?
Don't just, so how long ago was that? A long time ago? That you joined OBOD. How long have you been in OBOD?
Since the mid 80s, I think. Since the mid 80s.
Oh, okay. So it was 88 when Philip took over. So
yes,
very, very early days.
Well, it was early on. I remember going to a Druid workshop with Philip I think it was the early part of 2001. And by then
Okay.
we had finished the bardic grade. We had finished all the lessons. So it must have been right at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. And Sean, who's in Calgary, do you as a question for you? Do you have a favorite Celtic Christian saint?
Yes, St. Brendan the Navigator, absolutely. I love the fact that he pushed off not knowing where he was going and was looking for the promised land, or the Isle of Joy. And he made a boat, and he and his friends cast off, not knowing where they were going, not knowing whether that was the end of the world, or whether they would fall off the edge of the world, or whether they'd ever come back. And they were out, according to most writings, were out for several years. And they visited all these different islands, which later on have become identified, we think. We think we can identify which ones were which, But I found it just fascinating. And I loved the philosophy of Brendan's philosophy. Came from the Desert Fathers. It was a thread that came up about forms of giving yourself up, or giving yourself up to martyrdom. And of course, the Desert Fathers and Mothers went out to the desert where there was nothing. They left their families and everything behind. Well, you can't go out to the desert from Ireland, but you can go to the desert of the sea. And so I became quite taken with that idea, and did a lot of writing and speaking and teaching on that idea.
It was interesting. Was it in the 80s that Tim Severin
Yes.
built a boat with 30 cowskins, similar to what Brendan would have had, and actually made the voyage?
Yeah.
So it is plausible that Brendan sailed from Ireland to America. And I mean, I think that's fascinating. The islands he was describing, there were perhaps Iceland, with volcanoes and moving islands like Wales or whatever they were. And it's interesting because Brendan's voyage is one of our three wonder tales. So we have the voyage of Bran MacFiall to the other world. We have the voyage of Moel who went, and Kathleen Matthews' book, The Celtic Book of the Dead, it's about the voyage of Moel and going to the different islands. And it's quite an interesting book, well worth having a look at. And then the Brendan from a Christian perspective. Yeah.
I thought it was fascinating. And I actually became quite fascinated at that point in time with the idea of going to the sea, or going to the desert, or going on pilgrimage. And I formed a little foundation, and actually gave grants to people for spiritual pilgrimage and quest. And that went on for several years until the crash of 2008 in the stock market, where we didn't have any more funding. But we sent probably close to 30 people on pilgrimage. So that was kind of a thing with me.
And what were those pilgrim routes? I mean, where were they? Were they in the US, or were they in Europe, or like the Camino, or do you have pilgrim routes?
I mean, where did they go, or where did
where did they go?
They went all over. We had people that went to Nepal, a person that went to South Africa, people who went to the holy sites in England and Scotland and Ireland. And it kind of just depended on what they were after. But some of them just needed to have the space to get away from their everyday lives, to allow themselves to become more sanctified or more holy in their ways. So it was a lot of difference in what they wanted. But we didn't fund vacations, and we didn't fund retreats, and we didn't fund relief. You had to know where you wanted to go, why you wanted to go, and what you hoped to get back out of it. And then we would fund the travel piece.
Wow. Because it's one winter gathering. Pilgrimages we've always had the traditional ones, say in Ireland, for people to go. People who are unwell would go to Lourdes because of the Catholic connection there and the association with Saint Bernadette and healing. And they weren't walking pilgrimages. You went on a plane, obviously. It's not as if you couldn't, because then the Camino became very, very popular.
Right.
And so we now have, so the Camino can start in Dublin, St. James's Gate, Santiago, and you can walk down to the south and get a ferry and go to Britain and then walk your way down, or you start in the Pyrenees or you start in Spain or wherever it is. So it's quite popular. Like my sister has gone many times, hasn't done the whole thing, the 6 weeks, but has done sections of it. And many, many people I know have done that. And one winter gathering, we had two people from Guy Haywood and Will, I can't remember his surname, from the British Pilgrim Trust, and they gave us a talk on pilgrimage, and they had walked to Glastonbury, and I think it slept under a bush, and this is in December, and this was a new foundation because, you know, Henry VIII banned pilgrimages during
I
his...
did not know that.
Yeah, and it had stopped, and then it was becoming more popular and more. So we have different ones. We've Declan's Way, St. Declan's Way. Two friends of mine, they created or opened up Bridget's Way, starting in Faughart, where the saint allegedly was buried. Takes 9 days, and it ends in Kildare, where the Brigidine sisters are there, and there's the well and the fire. And
a lot of the people that we funded did not go on group pilgrimages or known pilgrim sites. They had an idea where they needed to go and why they needed to go. And it was quite interesting. We had them. One of the things they had to do was write something when they got back. So we compiled a little book of all their stories, or many of their stories, because we wanted to tell why it was important. You think when you go off on a pilgrimage that you're going to go here and get this and come back, but you never do. You're always surprised by what happens. And you always meet obstacles you didn't expect or people you didn't know. And you come back with something that isn't exactly what you set out to get. And it was interesting to hear the stories and hear the joy in people who managed to complete the pilgrimages.
You know, I love the idea of Imram, which means a wonder voyage, and that's what Brendan did. But it's lovely, you know, you set out on a journey and with a certain outcome in mind or certain goals, and then you don't achieve those, but you achieve something else, and the outcome is completely different.
Yeah.
And it's like the right outcome emerges. It's not about what it is you want, but what you need. And I always find that fascinating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We had a lot of stories like that. It was just wonderful. It was wonderful to hear. Hated to give it up, but we lost all our funding. So that was the end of that. And then I went on to do some other things. Yeah.
So have you yourself gone on pilgrimage?
Oh, yes, many times.
So where did you go?
Well, I started out going to Glastonbury, and I went to Glastonbury with my mother, and she and I went to Glastonbury every year for 6 or 7 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then we branched out from Glastonbury out into Wales and Cornwall because we became fascinated by the stones, the standing stones and the stone circles. So we had a book. The first time we went, we had a book. I think it was called Magical Britain or something, and it had all these different stone circles. So we went. We got a B&B in Glastonbury where we'd never been, and we had this book, and we just decided we were going to try to find these places. And so we would go. We'd look in the book and see where it was, and then try to get away there and hire a local driver or something. And we went all over the southwest part of England, and then we started going up to Scotland, and we went to the Hebrides, where I've gone to the Hebrides every year now for probably 20 some years.
Wow, okay.
And went on pilgrimage to Callanish, and that became kind of my heart's home, and would go there every year to sort of recharge my batteries, excuse me. Yeah.
Well, I've yet to go to Callanish, but one day, yeah.
Oh, it's quite special.
I've been to Iona on pilgrimage,
Yes,
so
I have too, and I've taken people to Iona.
okay.
Yeah, not as a group, but I've had
Yeah.
people say, "Will you take me to Iona?" I say, "Okay, let's go." When I took one friend who was close to 90, and we went to Iona, and she filled out a little thing afterwards giving me the Sherpa Award because I managed to do all the logistics of the trip and all that sort of thing.
Brilliant.
But I love Iona. Yeah, love
It's
Iona.
it's very special, and I've only been there twice. I think you have to be there 3 times. Is that right?
I've been there 3 times at
Yeah,
least. Yeah,
I've done it twice. And it's just absolutely incredible, and it's lovely that pilgrimages have different faces. They have different kinds of privilege or pilgrimage. Um, and I think that is wonderful that there's no set formula and that people have their own individual ways of expressing and discovering pilgrimage.
yeah. It's was quite wonderful to hear some of the applications and to make decisions and enable people to do this. We didn't do anything that was, for instance, we wouldn't fund someone who was a Catholic to go to Lourdes.
Yeah.
Or a Jewish person to go to Jerusalem. We figured they could do that through their church.
Yeah, exactly.
We took people off the beaten path mostly. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Now, somebody said they have your book. What is it called? Walk With Me?
Yeah.
So is that about pilgrimage?
No, actually, that's about the dying process. That's about being around and visiting. It's a very small little thing. It's about being with somebody who's ill, extreme ill, or who is dying, or whatever. And
okay.
It's I put it together. I was working in hospice at one point or another, and plus I'd had several family members that I'd gone through the death and dying process with, and so I had started collecting poems and stories and things that I would read to people when I was sitting at the bedside. And finally, I thought, I should put these all in one book, because when I was working in hospice, you have this big notebook of all these laws and rules and stuff. And in the back, I would have all these loose pieces of paper, and I'd try to pull something out, like a story or a poem or whatever. I finally thought, I think I'll put this all in one book, which I did. And this is just a little thing that fits in your purse that you can take when you're visiting someone who's very, very ill, and those long hours where you're sitting there and you've run out of things to say, or maybe you can't say because maybe they can't respond or whatever. And this you can open this anywhere you want to, and just have something, yeah.
So would you describe yourself as a death doula, or how did you describe yourself? Do you have a nursing background, or what was it that got you into hospice care, into the hospice?
Well, mostly I got into it because I was losing so many people that I knew, including my family members and my mother and my husband, my sister, all. And I had gone to seminary at age 72 to to see if I wanted to reconnect with my Christian roots, and so I thought, I'll just put this little book together for people who want it, and I used it, when I was visiting in hospice. I worked in a hospice for several months, not quite a year, and then due to circumstances, etc., I had to give it up. Yeah. So anyway, this is just a nice little book. I hope the person that has it has used it and enjoyed it.
And is it still in print?
Yes, I have several here. People can order it through my website,
Okay, very
or
good.
or just by writing to me on email is probably the easiest way, and then we just work it out that way. I don't
What's your
sell it through the OBOD store.
okay? What's your website?
romajohnson.com.
Roma. HNSON.com. So it's just all because
Yeah.
all one word, romajohnson.com. That's your
Yeah.
website. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant.
It's a nice little book. It's really helpful. I've had people tell me that it really, really helped them, as they were going through this. So,
Okay. It's always lovely to have those kind of those. And so you left the Pilgrim. Well, circumstances changed, and you're no longer in the hospice. So you're. Are you still? Are you teaching in Princeton, or have you retired?
well, I still do some teaching. Right now I mentor 2 writers groups, which I enjoy very much.
Okay.
And I also do some teaching. I do some like full moon circles or moon circles, or I've done a Samhain ceremony every year since I've been here, a dumb feast.
Okay. Yeah.
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 And that kind of stuff. But I don't have anything steady on. I just kind of do whatever I get called to do.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And of course, you're a Mount Hema scholar.
Yeah.
You presented yours in 2020 in COVID.
Well,
Uh,
we didn't present it till after.
no, as in you submitted it.
Oh, I submitted it. Yes, exactly.
So, so tell us a little, and then you presented it. Actually, it's 2024. Do you remember we had
Yeah.
an in one because we ended up normally, for those who don't know, every year we have a Mount Hema scholar. Scholarship is awarded to somebody who will write an academic paper related to Druidry, thanks to our patroness, Dwena Murphy-Gibb, who donates the scholarship. So, and every 4 years, up to COVID, there was a physical meeting, a Mount Hema Day, where the
Yeah.
4 scholars would come and physically present their paper. And because we were to do it in 2020 at the summer gathering when I was going to be installed and all of that stuff, and of course, COVID stopped all of that. And then we had one in 2024. That meant we had 8 scholars. So we did have a physical one in Britain, but we also had, because we had 4 Americans, didn't we? We did, presenting their paper. So we had 2 online events, which is great. So would you like to tell people about your paper?
Well,
Because it's your Druidry, your Christianity, all of that.
Yeah. Well,
Confluence.
yeah. I wrote the paper right as the whole world went into lockdown. So if you read it now, it's somewhat dated. It's a little bit that's not relevant anymore, or some of it isn't relevant anymore, I would say. But at the time, I was really thinking about Druidry. For me, Druidry and Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of thinking, I had gone through a period of time, especially when I took on Druidry. I thought, well, that means I have to give up Christianity?
Yeah.
But that felt bad, because then I was like giving up my father's religion and the family's stuff and all that. So I had done a lot of meditating and a lot of work on that. So I wrote the paper, and I called it Confluence, or I called it The Well and the Chapel,
Mm-hmm.
where I tried to show that Druidry and early Christianity in the islands, not Palestine, but early, had a lot in common. In fact, it was thought by some that when Christianity came to Ireland, that there was no big surprise.
Yeah.
It was not a surprise, because a lot of the belief systems and beliefs were very in sync with the Druidic beliefs and stuff. So I wrote the paper to try to show where we had commonalities and where we had to come together and in a confluence in order to put our energies toward this global catastrophe. And because when I was teaching like Teas with a Druid, or teaching to the Druids, and you mentioned Christianity, and people went, they weren't having any of that. And if I was teaching to Christians, early Christian Celtic Christianity, and I mentioned Druidry, it was it was this thing, and there were a lot of misconceptions, and a lot of and lived experience, obviously, but a lot of misconceptions. So I decided that I would try to trace where the paths converged or could converge, where they came from separate streams but had very much in common. So that became the inspiration for my paper. And I also used I went through a lot of books and found poetry that I thought spoke to that from both sides. So on each concept, I tried to show a Christian poem and a Druidic or, quote, pagan poem. And that quest in itself was good for me. I enjoyed that. Beautiful. So in the end, I said, basically, we've got to get over this. We've got to walk across the road and shake hands with the other people because we have so much in common. And we've got to let go some of these preconceptions and go back to basics. Simple things like the Trinity, the sacred three in Druidry and the Trinity in Christianity. They're not that far apart. Or the life cycle of a tree that goes from a seed to a tree to a leaf to a fruit to a seed. Resurrection isn't that far away from that, or rebirth, let's say. Let's don't use the word, but rebirth doesn't go. That is that. The cycle of life and rebirth were very similar. And so I tried to point out some of those similarities that would help us walk across the road to each other.
Liz, who's in Wyoming, she asked it earlier. Sorry, I didn't get to ask that question, Liz. She's still curious about what denomination you were raised in.
I was raised in the Episcopal or Anglican Church. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's and now more than ever, it's so important to recognize that there are more things that join us, link us, than divide us. We've one member of the order who's a Muslim, and he talks about the wonderful connections he's still discovering, and the threads between Islam and Druidry, and similar concepts to Awan within Islam. And it's really, really exciting. And rather than seeing them over there and them over there, whoever, as the enemy, there's far more that unites us than actually divides us. And I think what's always interesting is the crunchy bit is the difference, because that's the spice. That makes it really, really interesting. So this is where we are aligned, and this is where we're not. And that's what makes it really interesting. That is if you're curious and have curiosity about. And of course, it's about not having an investment in the need to be right. And I suppose within OBOD, we encourage diversity. So that negates the need to be right, because we don't know, what a good druid is. We don't know what a bad druid is. We don't know. It's like you just be who you are. And here are the teachings you're given to follow that path in the way that works for you in your own time, at your space, all of that. Everything is by invitation rather than by decree or diktat.
I did another project. I did it during COVID on the Druid feed. I did building a sanctuary in the world. And we went through the steps of what you would do if you were going to build a sanctuary, a real life sanctuary. You'd have to find a site. You'd have to identify, you might have to clear the site. You'd have to envision what the site would look like, then the building, and then the interior of the building and all that. What would your sanctuary look like, with the idea that you could, in fact, once COVID was over, go out into the world and actually build a thing, you know. And I had a lot of really good comments about that. I wrote a little book about it, and people told me that they were able to build their sanctuaries where they were. And you remember that we were all stuck. You know, nobody could go anywhere at that point in time. So how do you do this where you are now? Was kind of a trip. It was fun.
So what was the title of that book?
That's called The Rose Chapel. And it was called Building a Sanctuary in the World. Looks like this. It's small. It has all these different, it works out to like 7 different days worth of meditation, but you don't have to do them in that way. I just did it as a class. So those were my class notes. That's how I envisioned it.
That is wonderful. A friend, this is Sean, says, if you're, and I agree with this, if you are not at peace with yourself, then you are forever at war with the world. The degree to which we are at peace with ourselves is the degree we can be at peace with each other. And, you know, right now with the way the world is, there's so much anger. And I'm not talking about the actual fighting. That's horrendous, and all of that, and the killing and the horrendous war crimes. But it's also people online fighting and being angry at peacekeepers or peacemakers or peace declarers and saying we should all be out fighting. And how important it is one isn't, they're not mutually exclusive. You can try and be at peace with yourself and you can be an activist.
Exactly.
Working at inner peace doesn't mean you're in a cave on your own, ignoring what's going on in the world. It can be both.
I wrote a small paper at one time before this latest outbreak, but the war before this one, and I called it micro peace. And how do we find peace? Because a lot of people were saying, I can't do anything about this. There's nothing I can do. This is horrible. It's horrible. It's genocide. It's this. It's that. Nothing I could do. And I wrote this little thing about micro peace. Here's some ways that you could do it, and how you could work through your own position on it. And so one of the things that it talks about is if you're watching the news and you're getting riled up and you're getting freaked out and you're getting, oh my God. One of the ways you can work with this is for every hour or every minute that you watch this news, you owe 1 minute to pray for peace. So if you watch an hour of news a day, then you owe it to pray for peace for a day. Well, first of all, that will dramatically cut down your TV watching time. Nobody's got like 2 hours.
I'm not doing that. I have too much peace to be praying for. It's too much.
But that worked for me. I consciously took that on for quite a while, was to try to make sure that I gave as much time to thinking and praying about peace as I did fretting and being worried and angry about war. And it did actually help, you know.
If we as Druids acknowledge the power of our inner world and the power of our intention and working on our inner growth, etc. I mean, I really, really experienced that with the installation ceremony in 2020 because I was sitting in the room next door in front of my computer.
Yeah.
And
I watched.
And when we had to, that ceremony that was curated by Dave, I hadn't heard it completely. I had been doing my bits, my recording, you know, things coming back and forth. That was really powerful. I was there and I had friends in the room with me. One man who's not a Druid, and he said, I was there. I could see everything happening. Mm-hmm. And if we are able to work on our inner world, that micro peace, that peace that you're talking about is when any of us is spending time saying the peace prayer, for example. The one I start at the beginning that comes from the Japanese peace movement. I was involved in that a number of years ago. And I say I've translated the Druid peace prayer into Irish. I say that every day. And whenever there's something going on, I say it. Yeah. If I can't sleep at night, I say it. Yeah. And how powerful that is, even though we're not out there waving flags and screeching and roaring. that I think also has a really, really important role. It's not about passivity. It's not about bypassing. It's not about so-called privilege. Um, I think anyone can do this, and I think it's powerful. We have a long, I mean, if you look at, people say, well, it's not doing much good, Eimear. All of you praying away for peace. Look at the
I
wars
wouldn't
happening.
do
Well,
that.
is the fighting working? No. Is the bombing? Are the drones helping? No. Are the threats of nuclear, blah, blah, blah? None of those are helping either. So I'd rather do something that I can do.
Right. I think I feel that way because I'm I'm in my 80s now, and I'm around a lot of people that are in their 80s and 90s and up. Well, there's demonstrations, almost every weekend that you can go out and walk in the streets, these big
Yeah.
no kinks things and all. Well, some people in this age group, they're not able to go out and be in the streets, right? They're not able to be walking up and down for 4 or 5 hours.
That's right.
They're not able even to go out, some of them. So the idea was to create a space where for 1 hour a week we would have just prayer for peace, and you could participate or not, but at least that was something you could say, well, that's what I do, because you're right, we can't always see the direct effects, but it's something you can do.
And, I was brought up as a Roman Catholic, and I was aware of the Poor Clare nuns. It was a contemplative order of nuns who went in and never came out, and they were in perpetual prayer. And I have a tower house, a medieval tower house on my land. I live in a place called Three Castles, so I'm a real queen. And it's okay. So my house is built around one castle. It sounds grand. It's fairly basic, but in the tower house, it's now a temple dedicated to Uncaliach. But I only discovered a few years ago it was an anchorite cell. And an anchorite or an anchoress was somebody who was sealed into a room for their lifetime to pray for the souls in purgatory, to pray for members of the parish. And they were very well fed. Somebody said they were very corpulent because they didn't get any exercise because they were in that room in perpetual prayer. And then there was an opening, a window that people could hand them food. And then they had a window into the chapel, because there's a chapel the other side of the wall that they could just witness services. And then when they died, they were buried there. Now, I imagine those are only ever one there because it's very hard to get. I don't think they're queuing up to be. And of course, the famous one is
I can't picture that, although my experience during COVID sort of bordered on that.
Well, Julian of Norwich is a famous anchoress, and she was actually the first woman to publish a book in the English language 600 years ago. Right. And no, Liz, I do not live in the anchorite cell. That's our colleague's temple. I live in a house. I too self-centered for that. But and I remember I'm in the Fellowship of Isis, and the head of the Fellowship of Isis, Cressida Pryor, she's a great fan of Julian of Norwich, and she talked about Julian of Norwich being that role model or archetype during COVID, because just think about that, what we can do. And, I remember at the time saying, here's an opportunity, just go into your inner world and focus on whatever it is that you need to focus on. But Nimi says anchoresses were allowed a cat. I'm sure they were, maybe to deal with mice. Anyway, so that's just, it's about doing what we can and never underestimating the power of prayer or the power of intention.
Exactly. That's true.
Really, really important. And everybody does. So Nessa says, I think we can use inner power to pray for peace, either alone or collectively. And it means you focus on what you can do and what you physically couldn't do. Absolutely. Someone said they're afraid Cara Sue says, I'm worried about getting hurt by agitators in a protest. Absolutely. And then don't go.
Well,
And while those who are out there doing what they're doing, holding the flags or the banners, is that those who are not able to do that for whatever reason, every kind of action is valid. Oh, activism, planting a garden is activist. It's I don't know if anyone has listened to Ventures in Utopia, the latest series with David Bramwell, and there's one of the episodes is on anarchy, and I just love it because he talks about, people think anarchy is dangerous, it's out of control, it's about murder and mayhem and all of that stuff, and he says no, it's just about not going along with the establishment. So someone who does Meals on Wheels, that's anarchy. Someone who offers to do the shopping for their neighbor, someone who has a gardening plot, that's or someone who barters, that's anarchy. And it's decent, kind neighborliness support that people do. And I will pray for you for whatever, like going to doing that hospice work in many ways. Yeah. It's not medicine, it's something else. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean by
I read a lot of John Moriarty.
Yes.
And recently, I mean, I read them and reread them, so I couldn't possibly tell you which one this came from. But he had this idea that we should, quote, resist linearity.
Yes.
And I thought, there you have it, resist linearity. Don't get boxed in. Do what you can do. Do it with your heart and soul, and know that that's part of it.
And, there's so many issues. There's so many things going on. And I remember Joanna Macy, who passed last year, and I used some of her work when I was teaching. And she would say, you have to choose what you can do. You can't take on all of the causes. So what can you work with? I hear in the comments, people are talking about guerrilla gardening. And I think that's just wonderful, being able just to drop a few seeds into a place where you see a vacant lot. There are things we can do.
Yeah, I do a lot of painting. So I recently had a couple of exhibitions here in Princeton. And that for me is meditative in its way, painting. And I've done a lot of paintings recently of shamans, or the shamanic. You can see the part of one that I'm still working on behind me here, where the shaman is between the worlds, or working both worlds. And I think that we have that in us. We can do that if we go in there and work on it. It doesn't come naturally to most people. But to realize that we can go to a peaceful place, we can go to a healing place, we can go to another world, so to speak, that we don't have to sink in the mire of this particular moment. We don't have to say that, we don't have to go, I don't see anything. We don't have to do that. I don't mean that at all.
No.
But, there are ways that we can use our own spirituality to affect the world.
I know I am not at my best if I'm stressed, and if I'm wired and triggered and in a situation where I'm really, really defensive because I feel under attack, where if I can be at peace, I do far better work. I'm a far better person, and I'm much easier to be with than when I'm wired. And I think our peace prayer is just, and I just love your idea of the micro peace, because that's okay. 1 minute of news, 1 minute of peace. It's just fair is fair. A fair exchange is no robbery. But I love our own peace prayer because it starts with here, and then your grove, and then the greater circle of humankind. And then you get, I lose my keys and I go off on one. And then, but I have the prayer to take me back. It's not as if we're always in that still center of our being. It's a place, it's the anchor to which we return.
Right.
We get out there, and it's that sanctuary. You mentioned sanctuary. We have a lovely word called tarman. That's the Irish word for sanctuary. And to come back to that place, and that prayer does that.
Yeah. I think that sometimes feeling that anger and that angst and that just uptightness about what's going on in the world, for me, one of the things that Druidry has brought to me is that forces me to go outside. I can't stay in a room and be like that without spouting off, sorry, Colin, without going, off on a flare. But if I can just get outside and walk in, you see, we live right on this meadow with beautiful trees and whatnot, that if I can just get out there, and I have sometimes gone for a walk in the meadow yelling my head off, but then I come back to me again, or I come back to center again. And I remember the first few lessons in the Bardic grade where we were talked about hugging a tree or tree energy or that kind of stuff, which I thought, yeah, I get that. That works for me.
Yeah. So it's now, do you have any paintings there that you can show us? Can you bring that, your incomplete shaman there, to show us closer to the screen?
Can I bring it over?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by it.
We'll see what we can knock over in the process, because I'm
okay.
a very clumsy person, but we're going to try.
Oh, wow. That is so powerful. Beautiful. So it's not finished. Is that what you said?
Not quite, but that's there. I had done several pictures of shamans and they all ended up looking masculine, and I wanted to do one that was a female. And so this is the first one that I did that was not the first one, but I really wanted to capture female energy.
And is that a hawk?
I don't think it's a hawk. I've forgotten what it's called, but it is a bird that's coming out. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm just looking at the bird's eyes. And this is really clear on screen. And you have paintings on your website, haven't you? So that people can see more of your work?
I do have, but most of them are not exactly current. I haven't posted any of the new ones for a while because I've just been really, really busy.
There's a lot of positive comments. So people are saying, is it a kestrel, an eagle? It looks like a falcon. I love the female aspect combined with the night sky. Wonderful, gorgeous. So very, very positive.
Yeah.
Green energy from gardening or hugging trees is very healing. This is Nessa. And wow, that is very powerful painting. It is, it really. So have you come late in life to painting, or have you always painted?
No, I've always done art. I've always done it.
Okay.
But I always did it as kind of not therapy exactly, but just play. I've always done it, especially if I'm stressed. I could sit down and do a collage or do something. I haven't always been very deliberate. It's very rare for me to say, I want to do a female shaman, and try to make that happen. Usually I sit down with a blank piece of paper and say, oh shit, I don't know what I'm going to paint. And just start painting, So I've done some of these other ones. This is the painting on the front of the...
Beautiful, with the mountains.
Valleys, right? And then this is the painting on the beginning of Walk With Me.
Oh, so lovely.
These little paintings I've done. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. And I was going to ask you, do you have any poetry?
I have a poem that's in the little Walk With Me book that has to do with passing out of this life. So it's back to an earlier topic. This is one that I wrote about my mother, essentially. Okay. It's called On Arctic Wings. South of Iceland, I look down and see her cresting the fetch in her tiny craft. Riding down the long green wave, brave she sits inside the skin, carrying only one small dirk, one dram of water. All around her the seabirds soar, blinding white as seraphim, white-winged, long-necked, and they call to her, fee, fa, and she hears, free, far. Day to night the little boat rocks beneath the stars, wrapped in the swell of the sea. Midst northern lights and moonshine, a V of geese flies overhead, yakking and clacking, fee, fa, and she hears, free, far. In the early gray light, she throws back her hood, lets loose her silver hair. It catches in the mist as the dawn breaks purple behind her, blue before her. Minkies glide, minkies alongside. Minkies ride in her wake, their breath blowing fee-fa, and she hears free, far. Alone on the wide sea, surrounded by day stars and angels, she rides to the unseen islands, and her heart beats fee-fa, and she hears free, far. Deep in time, atop an ancient mountain, a single standing stone senses the oncoming coracle. In its old, slow voice, it calls to her, hum, thrum, and she hears, come home. South of Iceland, I look down and see her alone in her tiny boat. The wings of the plane cast the briefest of shadows on her breast. Would I could mount again its wings and ride to her. Would I could dip a fish from the brine to sustain her. Would I could call to her in my own voice. Fee, fa. Would she hear and laugh at the closeness of me on that vastness and be never afraid?
Oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful. Gabriella says, poignant, serene, deep, soothing, inspiring. Applause.
Thank
Beautiful,
you.
beautiful,
Thank you,
beautiful.
Gabriella. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your mother was also an OBOD, wasn't she?
She was, yeah, she was. She
Wow.
got as far as the end of the ovate grade, and then she just figured that was enough, especially because she was getting toward her 90s, and it was all, the ovate grade was all about contacting the ancestor and stuff, and so she felt like that was where she was supposed to be, and she didn't go on. But she was into it, did her lessons every week, and really was really great.
That's beautiful. It's also very important, and of course that comes with age, the wisdom, I think. Well, maybe that sounds a bit unfair, that there's no wisdom when you're younger. Well, it took me a while. Is that to find your place. I love when members say, I don't need to go do all three grades. Yeah. I am a bard and this is where I am, or I am an ovate. And then others say, I need to do all three. Yeah. And like Dave the bard did all three grades and then went back and became a bard all over again. Yeah. And I was at a Druid Gorset recently, and there was a number of members there, Druids, who were saying, I've gone back to the bardic grade, and you know what? I'm discovering more that I missed the first time. Yeah. So I always say to people, never rush, take your time. It took me 7 years to do the bardic grade, and I know there are others that took it much longer. It is not a rush, because your engagement with the lessons and with your landscape and all of that has its own time. And then, of course, there's life circumstances.
It took us 5 years.
Yeah.
And we worked at it. There were no gaps. We just, took our lessons when we, as we came along, and it took us 5 years to get through the whole. Yeah.
5 years to do the 3 grades or one grade?
The 3 grades.
Oh, yeah. It took me 15 years. So, 15 years. So it's like there is no rush, and it's about going, like, trusting that your process is the right one. Just beautiful. So Nessa says, I'm early in on the bardic grade. I'm taking it slowly. It's about the journey. The destination will come in its own time. Absolutely. And sometimes it's not a rush, says Gabrielle. It's a whirlpool pushing you forward without the moment of holding a breath. Yes, that's if something is pushing you, and if something is holding you back, allow it. Just take it easy. And then Wolf says, I've received my introductory packet and I should proceed with my Druidic official lessons and studies. I remember when I signed up for the introductory pack. I was so excited.
Yeah, we were too. We were
loved
totally
it. And I couldn't wait to
Yeah.
join. And I just loved every month getting the brown envelope.
Yeah.
And it was just that excitement when I just joined the order. I'm not as excited now, as in I've calmed down. I still love being a member of the order and where I am, and just even having these conversations. I really, really enjoy it. So it's so those of you who are early on, I'm just Wolf and Nessa just really enjoy it and wishing you lots of magic and patience. And Gabriella wants to share she's finished the Druid grade recently. It's been a whirlwind. Congratulations. Yeah. Anyway, everybody's journey is just so different. Yeah. And I always say, never compare yourself, either that you're better than or less than, because neither is it's any good. So, and some wisdom from Calgary. Chronos is clock time, 9 to 5, banker's hours, but Kairos is mythic time, seasonal time, ordained time, divine time, how long it takes for a tree to grow or a baby to be born. The grades operate on Kairos. They absolutely do.
That's true. That's true, for sure. Yeah, that's good.
James says the lessons of each grade never end. The formal lessons are only the beginning. Absolutely. And Delena, I don't know if I pronounced your name. I'm in my first month of lessons. The content is so beautiful and informative. I'm so glad I took the step to come home. You know what? You're very, very welcome, Delena, if I pronounced your name. So many people say, it's like, I can't say it's a cliche, that's not fair. But, people say, I've come home when I joined the order. Just brilliant. So anyway, so somebody heard a train bell. That bell, what is it? I've heard, is that your clock?
There must be a clock. Oh, yeah, we have a little clock that tinkles.
Yeah.
It's a very, very old clock. It's from the 1700s, and it makes delicious noises, but it doesn't keep great time. It keeps time, but it's kind of its own time.
Well, it just went a little bit past the hour. It rang, but it's lovely to have that. So, Roma, we've come to the end. We've gone over the hour.
Thank you so much for having me. I just enjoyed this very much. I appreciate you all. Thank you, all of you who are watching. Really nice to see some of you again. Very happy.
So just Ben says, could you say the peace prayer? Pray for peace. Do you mean Australia? Okay, I'll say it if that's what you mean. Gadawan lastje de krihaker maveha gavoy me shiakon. Gatustak lastje de kunas and all grinny me shiakon. Gamonla lastje de kirkel intak the gavoy me shiakon. So, and Anton says, dear Roma, thank you so much for your talk. It was very inspiring for my journey.
Thank you.
And he says, lovely to see you again, because you obviously have fans, because people had attended your teas back in the and Sean says, this is wonderful, a micro piece in my day. Thank you both. So, Roma, I hope someday to meet you physically in real.
I hope so.
It was just such a joy talking to you, and I will. So, have you already said goodbye? Maybe you can say bye again, and then I can.
We'll be in Ireland in November, Eimear, so maybe we'll have a chance to connect.
Oh, okay. And are you coming to the Winter Gathering? No.
No.
Okay. Anyway, I'm going to send you some mail.
Thank you, all of you. It was really wonderful. I appreciate you having me as a guest. Eimear, you were really fun to talk to. Let's do it again sometime.
We will. So listen, don't go. I'm going to send you to the green room, and I'll just close off here, and then we can look at the comments. Okay.
Okay.
So thank you all for being here this evening, and just judging by your comments that you really enjoyed my chat with Roma. And we're coming up to, yes, I will see you next week, which will just be on the eve of Bealtaine. So in the meantime, good morning, good afternoon, good night, or if you're watching a recording of this, please be well in these crazy times. And remember the micro piece, and that's still the centre of our beings. And never underestimate the power of intention and peace. So until we meet again, slán go fóill.